Mr. Carroll.
I am here.
Thank you. Mr. Davy.
Here.
Ms. Fry.
Here.
Ms. Haley. Mr. Holland.
Here. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning, Jim.
Mr. Engel.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Winslow.
Here.
City of Richmond. Mr. Blackwood. Mr. Giovia. Ms. Gray. Ms. Larson.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Lynch. Dr. Newbell.
Here.
Mr. Poole.
Here.
Thank
Can
you,
you hear
Dr.
me?
Newbell. Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Couldn't tell. Thank you.
Mr. Poole. Hanover County, Mr. Davis.
Here.
Ms. Lorenzon. Mr. Peterson. Ms. Pritchard. Mr. Whitaker. Henrico County, Mr. Archer. Mr. Brannon. Mr. Mackey. Reverend Nelson. Ms. O'Bannon.
Here.
Mr. Schmidt. Mr. Thornton. New Kent County, Mr. Lockwood. Mr. Moyer.
Here.
Ms. Page.
Here.
Powhatan County, Mr. Byerly. Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Nordvig. Thank you. That concludes the roll call.
Thank you very much. Did you get Mr. Peterson? I saw that his phone is on, but I didn't hear him.
I did not, but I will make note of that.
I thought I did.
And this is
Randy Whitaker. I'm here, signed in.
Thank you.
and this is Kim Gray. I apologize. I just signed in.
Thank you.
And this is Jacob Giovia. I apologize. I also just signed in.
Great. Thank you.
And Mr. Archer is here as well.
Mr. Chairman, this is Pat O'Bannon. I may have to leave at some point and come back. I have some workmen here today. I have a leak in my roof.
Oh, no.
So I may need to go and come a little bit.
Okay. Well,
Sorry.
thank you for the advance notice, Ms. O'Bannon. Okay, has anyone not been called on or has been able to respond to the roll?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Larry, I'm back up from Powhatan.
Thank you, Mr. Norvik. Anyone else?
I think I was muted. Am I being heard now?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Archer.
Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you.
get it right.
All righty. So at this time, we will, it is extremely important for us to, even though we're meeting virtually, to get input from the public. So we welcome any public comments. Do we have any, or is anybody on the line looking to make some comments to the body? Ms. Heater.
I do not see anyone. We did not receive any comments in advance of the meeting, and I do not, on a quick scan of the participants, see anyone indicating that they would like to speak during public comment period.
Okay, great. And they could do so in the chat.
Yes, they could do so in the chat. They could also submit comment via email to info@planrva.org if they're watching from the YouTube site. So those would be the two options at this point in time to be able to participate.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Heater. Okay. All right, moving right along to item E, requests for additions or changes to the order of business. I would like to ask the body to allow us to remove action item 3.4, the payroll frequency change that we were going to discuss this morning. It has been requested by staff to defer this. At this time, they want a little bit more time to look into some of the implications that had risen later. But if there are no objections, I would ask that we remove that from this meeting agenda. Are there any objections? All right, thank you. Mr. Winslow, was that? Okay. All right, moving right around to old business, I will turn it over to Mr. Norvig for the approval of the meeting minutes.
I mean, Mr. Spoonhour, since we are amending the agenda, it might be wise to ask for a motion and a second and consensus from the body.
So moved.
Second. Okay. I'll double second that. This Supervisor Hall.
All right, so they really don't want to talk about that. Okay, it has been moved seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Norvig, turn it over to you for the approval of the meeting minutes.
Good morning once again, everybody. Supervisor Nordberg from Powhatan here, and we do have the approval of meeting minutes on the docket here, page 4 of your packet. And if anybody has any changes, additions, deletions, or want to insert your 3x5 picture, now's the time to say so. All right, Mr. Chairman, it sounds like the minutes are inserted as they stand.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gray. We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the meeting minutes as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries and they are in the official record. Okay, now moving on to our second item of closed business, our charter agreement revisions. Mr. Gregory.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the body. We're back again to talk about the charter agreement revisions or amendments. They are the last version, we'll call that draft 6, is in your packet. To give you an update, that the revisions remain the same. However, one of the prior versions contained additional voting tiers in Article 2, Section 2, that would provide for additional votes by the larger of the two jurisdictions based upon population, Henrico and Chesterfield. That revision was removed. So the voting tiers remain as they have been in this version. So you'll see there 250,001 and up have 5 votes, and that remains unchanged. So everything remains the same, and we discussed this again in the executive committee. One additional amendment, and I apologize for this, but this is how these sort of iterative revisions occur sometimes. We caught a change that is necessary to Article 3, Section 3, in order to make that section consistent with Article 2, Section 5, which is at the top of that same page on page 3. So I am recommending that the language in Article 3, Section 3 be changed to read as follows. Each alternate member appointed to the commission shall hold the same voting authority as the designated governing body official. And that is to make that consistent again with Section 5 above at this, on that same page 3. and also to make it consistent with the Code of Virginia. So that, with that, we believe that the charter amendments are prepared for your vote again, to provide a stamp of approval so that it can be circulated to the member jurisdictions for approval. As it stands now, we believe that this present version enjoys some consensus of support among the member jurisdictions now that that additional voting tier for the larger jurisdictions has been removed. That unfortunately, we learned was not well received by some of the jurisdictions and was not going to be approved. However, we believe that the remainder of the changes do enjoy support among the member jurisdictions, and we expect it will be approved once circulated. However, it may take a little bit longer than we had originally hoped. The approval process, we believe, may begin with one or two of the jurisdictions this month, and then occur over the next several months among the remaining jurisdictions into January, February, March, maybe even into April, hopefully not that long. But staff is recommending you vote to approve in order to provide your stamp of approval to these amendments, and then authorize staff to circulate this most recent version to the member jurisdictions for their consideration and recommended approval. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Any questions for Mr. Gregory?
Mr. Gregory, I asked this in executive meeting, but just for the benefit of everyone, I asked you, is there anything that's driving the timeline on this? And I think the response was that this came as a request from county administrators so that appointments can be made subject to the meeting in the new year and their calendars. But there's no other drivers requiring this vote today. Is that right?
That's correct. There is no requirement. Fundamentally, there is no requirement that the PlanRVA board vote to approve these amendments to make them effective. What makes the amendments, their charter amendments, effective is the approval of all the member jurisdictions, right? So once the final member jurisdiction votes to approve the amendments in the same form as all the other member jurisdictions, then they become effective. So what we're asking for today is more of a symbolic vote to put the PlanRVA board's stamp of approval on these amendments so that they have that, the member jurisdictions know that PlanRVA board itself is in favor of this, and then to authorize staff to circulate it to the member jurisdictions. There is no immediate timeline pressure on this. I'm not sure if that's the right way to explain it, but we don't have any pressure of time. There's to approve these amendments. They can occur, over the course of time. With the original driver of that, back when we undertook this process some months ago, and then sort of went back and revisited the process and kickstarted it again in October, was the idea that, look, if we're going to change how member jurisdictions appoint their governing body representatives, right? So which these charter amendments would do, then it would be, the preference would be to have those changes in place by the end of the calendar year, so that when the member jurisdiction governing bodies meet in their annual organizational meetings, typically in January, they would be making the appointments to the PlanRVA board under the auspices of the new charter amendments, under the new charter. So, but, given the realities, that looks like it won't happen. So what will occur is the governing body jurisdictions, depending on how this unrolls, the governing body members would make their appointments to the PlanRVA board under the existing charter. And then once the charter amendments were ultimately approved, assuming that occurs, they could make appointments to the PlanRVA governing board under the new charter, which hopefully would occur in sometime in the spring at the latest. I hope that explains things.
It does. Thank you.
Mr. Gregory, if I may, I will just offer a little bit more information. Going back more than a year, the original driver of reviewing the charter and offering amendments was to address the location of the office. And so that's where I think this story really fundamentally began. And there is no deadline on that other than if the amendment with regard to location of the office is approved, that will open up additional opportunities for location. As the charter currently reads, the office must be located within the city limits of Richmond.
That is correct. And Mr. Chairman, if I might, the amendment to Article 1, Section 2 on the first page of the document that you have before you allows PlanRVA to locate its offices in a centrally located within Planning District 15. So not necessarily within the city of Richmond, but still centrally located. So it provides greater flexibility as the agency is considering the office lease in 2022.
Mr. Chairman, just a further point of clarification for Mr. Gregory. So these amendments do not address sort of one of the fundamental issues that I guess is a point of contention, and that is that certainly it's Chesterfield's position, and I believe it's Enrico's position as well, though they're on the call and can state their position, that there's going to be a funding gap that results from sort of taxation without representation, without this clause that we've certainly tried to negotiate be part of this group of amendments. And I guess my concern as a member of this body, as a member of certainly the executive committee, is that if we move forward on these amendments today, it may not be technically having an effect on the budget for this organization based on those amendments, if you read them, but that practically speaking, down the road, we're going to have this issue to contend with, because certainly Chesterfield's position that the funds that we allocate toward this body will be capped and will result in a shortfall. And I don't want that to happen, certainly. So I sort of look at this and go, is there a timeout? Is there more time to sort of have these conversations and negotiations and try to get these amendments done in a clean way, and certainly open to having those discussions. But I need to, I think it's incumbent upon me to state that at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Winslow.
Mr. Chairman, for clarity, I will note that the dues that are requirements for the agency and the member jurisdictions is addressed in Article 6 of the charter, which begins at the bottom of page 4 in the document before you. There is, just so everybody understands, there is no direct linkage between the number of votes that a jurisdiction enjoys and the dues that it pays. Okay, the dues that it pays are based upon population as it stands. And the votes that it enjoys are based upon population that it stands, but the voting tiers are not linked up to the dues that it pays. So those are two sort of separate considerations. Now, how they're interpreted, is up to the member jurisdictions and what they may do. But the dues is based upon the number of the population per capita, and the votes are determined by the voting tiers. So just wanted to provide that input. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Any other discussion?
Yes, this is Supervisor Holland. I join and concur with my fellow supervisor, Supervisor Winslow. that, it's fundamental to America to have representation in democracy where one vote, one person, and the most votes usually win. So it's a fundamental American system for voting and population. So I think that should be acknowledged. And of course, as stated, we want to make sure when you make a change, you make a change that you can live with financially as well as representationally. That's critically important at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Any other comments?
Hi, this is Pat O'Bannon.
Yes,
Are
Ms.
you
O'Neill.
are you saying you want to change this again, or are you saying that it has been changed to your satisfaction? I'm not following that part of it.
Ms. O'Bannon, are you addressing me? I just want to make sure.
Or me.
Yes, somebody from Chesterfield.
Sure.
Both said the same thing.
I think that generally speaking, the viewpoint is that all of these issues are linked and that they should be decided once, and that certainly would be the position of this supervisor that we take a little more time and see if we can come to an agreement before passing these amendments today. I'm hesitant to kick this funding issue down the road. And I sense that Mr. Holland certainly agrees with that as well. But
yes.
I'm prepared to move to defer this item to a future meeting date. That's going to be my motion.
And let me just quickly say, I concur and hasten to say the same thing as well. Because again, fundamentally, we want to do it well, we want to do it right, and that requires more time to make sure it's done appropriately.
This is Mr. Carroll, and I will concur with both of my colleagues on the statements that they have made. And I too agree with the deferment to see if we can come up with something that is amenable to everyone.
Yes.
But so that's my position as well.
Okay.
If
Great.
if you can just give me a clarification that your concern is the number of votes per population, because I know we've done this a couple of different ways. Is that the concern, or is it the dues part for what you pay? But because I'm assuming it has to do with the voting per population from what you said. Is that the concern?
Yeah, yes, I think that is the concern.
Yes.
And if we don't have, a certain number of votes per population, then, the dues are going to be affected as well, I guess, is the easiest way to state our position is that we would link those two items per population, and that doing so would result in a funding gap to this organization, which I think, want.
Yeah, I concur that is fundamentally true. And let me say that we can always appoint other than January. That's not a critical. Changes do occur. And so any jurisdiction can make a change when it meets after January to make the appointments as necessary. So that's not a critical nexus. However, I do believe very strongly that the democracy is on trial here, and also more importantly that the budget is on trial, and that has critical ramifications for not only now but well into the future.
John Davis Hanover. Mr. Chairman, if I'd support the members request to defer. It doesn't seem to be critical, and Chesterfield's been a good teammate for many years. If they've got some things they need to look at, I would support a deferral if that comes up for a vote. I think it's an administrative matter, something that they need to look at. It'd be my suggestion that everyone would support it, but just want to be on the record. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Okay, Mr. Winslow, if you would make a motion, and others will be glad to second that motion.
So move.
It's been so moved and asked, therefore Supervisor Holland, Commissioner Holland seconds.
Thank you. We have a motion to defer this item. Do we need to choose a date? Mr. Winslow, do you want to propose a date to which we would defer the item?
I'd suggest our February meeting. I think that will give us enough time to hopefully sort through these items, all of them.
Okay, so you're
I'm
amending
not
your
sure
motion.
we meet in January anyway, so I
Perfect.
often don't meet in January.
Okay.
And it would give everyone time.
Oh,
I would be interested to hear the changes and the type of changes, because we've gone over this a couple of times and we've tried it several different ways. So my thought is just, I'd like to see what they're suggesting.
Fair enough.
Sure.
Mr. Holland, do you accept this friendly amendment?
Yes, I accept the date as certain, as known. Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to defer this item until our excuse me, our normal meeting in February. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Peterson.
One point I'd like to make, I fully agree with Mr. Holland, Mr. Winslow, and all that. We all want to make sure all of our citizens are properly represented. Unfortunately, we do not have a form of governance similar to what we have in our state and federal places, where we have representation by jurisdiction as well as representation by population. So we want to make sure that what we do does not completely eliminate the smaller jurisdictions from really having any say at all in this organization, while still respecting the population of the larger jurisdictions. So I think it's a little more complex than just the number of citizens that live in each jurisdiction. So, and I just want to put that on the table as we consider this over the next couple of months.
And Mr. Chairman, this is Pat O'Bannon.
Yes, Ms. Mann.
I would hope, because we have gone over this several times and have come up with a couple of different, concerns with each one, if there could be some alternatives, one or two ways to handle this, just what Mr. Peterson is saying. But while I agree, maybe it's some alternatives. That's just a thought for me that that we could discuss.
Okay. Mr. Bannon, I'm assuming you're talking in the next couple months, not in this meeting.
Not at this meeting, no, sir. I mean, if their concern is this, there may be more than one way to take care of it that satisfies a couple of different people. They may want to run it by a smaller jurisdiction or send it over to Mr. Peterson.
So let's
that type of thing. We do need to get it done. I'm just saying that if there were some alternatives and some discussion.
So let me just kind of jump in there, Mr. Bannon. I appreciate that thought, and let me just pose it to the body. Right now, the way it's being handled, I believe, and Mr. Gregory and Ms. Heater, right now it's working with the county staffs, Ms. Gregory, and then I believe even some of the county attorneys. So it's being managed at that level, and you can tell me are we comfortable with that, or is there an alternative way to work through this that anyone would recommend?
It is right now, the existing charter amendments that were voted upon at the last meeting have been circulated to the member jurisdictions for their consideration and recommended action. If the PlanRVA board would prefer to defer those amendments, or to withdraw those amendments, in a manner of speaking, from the member jurisdictions, Mrs. Heater and I and PlanRVA staff can make that known to the member jurisdictions, so that votes aren't, so that no time is wasted at the member jurisdiction level on the amendments that are currently pending. We would certainly make that clear to them, and then wait until February to see if the issue that Chesterfield has brought up could be resolved. I might suggest that the remaining the amendments as they stand could be voted upon, and then further amendments could be done later. But I understand that the issue that Chesterfield addresses is fundamental and may need to be resolved, or maybe it's best that it be resolved before the remaining charter amendments are considered. So yeah, we would make it known if the desire is to withdraw the present charter amendments in order to allow time to resolve this issue.
But in a sense, keep managing it the way it's being managed.
We would strive to make communications clear to the chief administrative officers at the local level and the local legal counsel, what the preferences of the board are, and communicate that as clearly as possible. Absolutely.
Okay. I guess my
Mr.
question,
Chairman.
Mr.
I think
Peterson.
absent action to appoint like an ad hoc committee or something to that effect, the current practice would be our primary avenue. Staff can communicate with executive committee members during this process if the motion on the table were to go forward. But I think more directly to your point, Mr. Spoonhour, unless there's an appetite to form an ad hoc committee and to convene meetings of that ad hoc committee to be able to discuss this from a commission member perspective, staff would be working directly with local staff to provide perhaps those options that Mrs. O'Bannon requested and put a package together for consideration in February. That would be how I would interpret the motion on the table.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Peterson. You have the floor.
Okay, let's cut to the chase on this thing. We put the thing out there. We looked at it for full representation in the previous version. We all know that no charter change will take place unless all jurisdictions approve it. We also know which jurisdictions are having issues with this and which ones are not. I suggest over this next 2 months that with staff being involved and those jurisdictions coming up with a place where all of us can work together. Because if we don't have everybody on board, nothing's going to happen. And we're going to stick with the charter that we already have. So I'm going to suggest that, no, don't send anything to me. Don't send it. Let staff work with those jurisdictions that are having issues with this particular item and work with them to try and come up with a common solution that we can all agree with.
Thank you for that, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Spoonhour and Mr. Gregory.
Mr. Chairman.
That was the intent, was to, when we come together in February, to have something that we're fairly much in agreement. That's all I was getting at. And I appreciate your discussion on this. Thank you.
Great. Ms. Page, I believe that, were you trying to say something?
I was, but I've forgotten now. I just wanted to say I'm in agreement with Supervisor Peterson on that. As one of the smallest localities, it becomes for us to wait and see what the other localities decide to do. I mean, and I appreciate the comment about the smaller localities. However, I've wanted to address this issue before, so I might as well do it now. When your locality is small as New Canaan, and I can say Charles City as well, it becomes, what do you guys want to do? Because it's, I mean, with one vote, and we just try to play well with others. And that's where we are. But I would be in agreement that the localities that are facing the challenges or having issues with that they work together with PlanRVA and then bring it back to the board.
Thank you so much for those comments, Ms. Page. We have a motion and a second on the floor, and we're in discussion. Is there any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none. Can this be by proclamation, or do we need to do a roll call?
It can be by acclamation unless there's a dissenting vote. That's not a threat, but if there's a dissension, then we can go to the roll call.
Okay, great.
If Mr. Gregory concurs.
Yes.
Okay, great. So in front of us is we are looking to defer this item until the next, until our February meeting. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion to defer passes. Folks, that was a great conversation, great input
Yeah.
from everybody. I really, that's how this is supposed to work. Love it.
I appreciate it. Now, and this is Supervisor Holland, Mr. Chairman. I thank you all. And I want you all to know that, again, my heart is with each and every jurisdiction, especially how small, that we all work together. So thank you for that.
Mr. Chair, this is Supervisor Tyrone Nelson, Henrico. I'm here. I just want to make sure you get me as present.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. We'll include you in the roll. Were there any back votes, Mr. Nelson, that you were present for? That we've given the consideration in the past that folks that were here for votes but weren't able to announce.
No, I'm consent with everybody on the last one. I've been on and off because of internet issues, but
okay,
I'm officially back up now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nelson. Okay, moving right along. Executive Committee and Chairman's Report. I will keep this brief because we still have quite a bit to get through. I just really appreciate this organization and the opportunity that I've been given that I didn't see coming. To be quite honest with you, this was not anything a freshman politician, as a freshman politician, I thought I'd be doing. It has been not just a great learning experience, but one of the things when Ms. Heater asked me after I accepted was, what is your plan? And my plan was to learn more about the region and to build relationships. And I feel like COVID hasn't helped that a lot. It's been difficult to get together for coffee and lunch, but making progress there. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the just the work that we're doing together and your patience. So I want to thank you for that. I want to wish everyone an amazing holiday season. And as much as I do love meeting with you all, would entertain a motion for us to cancel our January meeting and then to move into to re-adjourn in February. That kind of sounds contradictory to what I just said, but that would be my holiday gift to you, is you get some extra time back with your family in the beginning of the year. So at that, I will entertain a motion for that if someone would.
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Thank you, Ms. Page.
Second.
I think that was Mr. McGraw, Mr. O'Bannon. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, if to move our meeting, please indicate your vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. We will see you in February. Can't sign off yet. We've got a lot more to do. All right, we are now moving into the Audit, Finance, Facilities, and Finance Committee's reports. Up first is our financial statements. Ms. Heater.
Thank you, Ms. Heater.
Thank you. If you're following along on the digital copy that was sent out, it's page 17 of the packet. I know also the view screen will be updated to give you a look as well. We have reintroduced the narratives for your assistance. For those of you that enjoy reading the words instead of looking at the numbers, we've reintroduced that, and we'll be providing drafts of those to the Finance Committee in preparation for the full commission meetings. The Finance Committee did have a chance to review this narrative and the financial statements when they convened. in earlier November. We are looking at the October financial statements. I won't review word for word the narrative section, but I will refer you to the actual financial statements that begin on page 20, starting with your balance sheet. We are in a solid cash position. It does include September 30th accounts receivable. So that tends to be kind of a larger month for us in October at the close of the prior quarter, where we've got a lot of invoices out to our funders to reimburse us for the quarterly expenses. You'll notice at the bottom of the balance sheet, starting there on page 21, we do have a year-to-date operating deficit of $33,236. This is a reduction over what was reported for September financials, and I will say preliminary look at November is showing continuous improvement on that. Finance Committee will be meeting on December 22nd to review the November financials, and we'll be digging into that more there, but just a bit of a preview. Moving to the profit and loss statement beginning on page 22. You'll see that we've got October, September, August, and July there outlined for you to show our revenues by month and the expenses by month. I'll just read kind of across the columns to orient you. We've got the months there showing our year-to-date actual total, which is the sum of the 4 months that are reported in the statement compared to the annual budget. 4 months into the fiscal year represents 1/3 or roughly 33.3% of the total budget. So that is our point of comparison on that last column of figures to be able to show. So you can see, for example, I'll refer you to the row entitled Total Federal Funding. That first block of figures there, you'll see that we are 19.28% of budget for the year. If you compare that to the 33.33, you'll see that we are lagging in our federal funding year to date. And you can see that comparison all the way through the financial statements. I'll skip to the end and then kind of walk backwards, but at the very end of the financial statements, let's see, on page 24, you'll see that for the month of October, we did achieve a net income for the month. And so that's where we see the performance improving for year-to-date financials. It was about an $8,800 net income for the month. So revenues are in fact picking up. We had a slow start, as you can imagine, at the beginning of the year in the start of some of our projects and kicking them off. But we have been able to, I think, achieve a better pace. And we have seen what I would refer to as somewhat more regular work schedules in the month of October. That, of course, in November and December falls back down again because of the scheduled holidays and anticipated leave that we see with employees. But, I do expect that we'll continue to see progress over the next couple of months. We've also seen a pickup in expenditures. So that's good, which means that time is being spent in the right places to be able to achieve reimbursement. We have some new grants that have started as of October 1. So funding that gets to be at the end of its funding cycle in the first quarter of the fiscal year begins again with the federal fiscal year on October 1. So again, good signs there. You might recall that our local funding is reported currently on our financial statements at a 1/12. Just divided evenly. We received the funding at the beginning of the year and we just recorded on our financials at 1/12. So that is why you see those numbers. The programs that the local member dues are supporting are tracking well, and we're matching revenues to expenses internally to be able to make sure that we're not over expending our local member dues, state appropriations, and those funds. I do expect that our operating revenue should be closer to 50% by the end of December. And we'll be able to pick up the pace a little bit as we get into December and January. On the expense side, I just wanted to, also be able to highlight a couple of things for you. We talked about this in the Finance Committee meeting, and it will continue to be a discussion topic there. We did incur about $10,000 in quarter one of combined delayed leave from fiscal year 20, staff members who were unable to take certain time that they were planning to take off. They finally took that in the first quarter of the year. So what benefited us in fiscal year 20, of course, comes back in fiscal year 21 to be an expense. And we did have some sick leave this year as well. And so that's a little bit uncharacteristic for us in the first quarter. So that's a piece of the contribution of where we are today. As I mentioned, leave will continue through December because of the holidays that are scheduled for Thanksgiving and then the Christmas holidays that are scheduled through the state. So I do expect that by the third quarter of the fiscal year, we'll start to see that leave kind of even out, and that will start to show in the financial statements. We are tracking leave monthly to evaluate that and to be able to keep the finance committee up to date on what we expect. And if we see that trend start to turn in a different direction, we'll be able to, I think, pull some levers to be able to make sure that we don't see negative impacts of that by the end of the year. I'll also mention that leave and health insurance are pacing beyond the recovery of funds right now. And so what I mean by that is that health insurance costs went up this year. Our fringe rates that we apply to be able to recover those costs were based on on fiscal year 19 costs. So there's sort of an inherent imbalance there. Mr. Holland and I have had a couple of chats about that. And I think we're going to be looking at, probably through consultation with some of your local government finance folks, some options to be able to come back in the next few months to be able to discuss different ways that we might be able to achieve a more effective cost recovery. But again, I do expect that the majority of that outpace, if you will, is driven by the leave that I think will correct itself over the course of the fiscal year. So as an example, for those of you that are into numbers, currently we bill our fringe at 44.07%. So that means that our fringe costs represent that share. Right now, as of the end of this period, October 31, our fringe costs are closer to 50. So that's really what's representing that delta, and it's driven by that leave that is not typical for this point in the fiscal year. We have a couple of charts in the financial statements that also kind of, I think, are useful. They're very useful for staff in managing this. The first chart is a quick glance for you to just be able to show the status of the fund balance. So we are monitoring that closely. Despite the year-to-date net loss, we are still above the $1 million threshold. So we're continuing to monitor that very closely and want to make sure that we maintain that buffer above the $1 million fund balance threshold. Moving down the page, you'll see this is a great kind of snapshot for you to be able to see our staff salaries. As you can see, we continue to pay salaries less than budget, which is good. There's a bit of fluctuation there. In the summer months, you can see a little bit higher because of our part-time staff personnel internships. Obviously, now that we're into the school year, that has waned a bit. And then you can see the percent reimbursed. And so that represents that line there. 65% of the salary costs for the October month were reimbursed, and that is the high so far for this fiscal year. October was a good month, and it shows in the way that time was spent on reimbursable programs. I am happy to get into kind of some more information if you like, but we are meeting again as a committee on December 22nd. We've got, I think, quite a few things in December and January to discuss by way of resolutions that'll come back to you for consideration to amend the budget. We have some new grants that are coming in, some new funding awards that have been made. And so that'll be on the schedule for January and this month in January to discuss so that we can come back to you. And I would expect that you'll start to see financial performance by your February meeting, hopefully turning more in the same direction that it's going in October. Mr. Holland, can I?
Very well said. Thank you, Ms. Heater. You did well. One thing I want to point out too, that we have requested, and we're going to provide monthly as well, a budget versus actual head count of the different categories that we have. I see the summary of staff time, but I think it's also important to have that embedded in our financial report as we discuss it monthly. So, and in addition to, we're not meeting in January, as you know, so it'll be discussed in February as the chair requested. But very good overview, however. Nevertheless, we are moving in the right direction, and we'll continue to do so going forward, Ms. Heater, as you noted.
If there's no further, or when the board is ready, I believe that the Audit, Facilities, and Finance Committee moved this forward for your consideration, and it would be appropriate if someone wants to offer a motion to accept the financial statements. That was Mrs. Gray, I think.
Oh, I move that we approve the recommendation or the report. Sorry.
This is Supervisor Holland. I'll second that.
Thanks.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, I would call for an acclamation vote. All those in favor of approving accepting the financial statements for October, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. The motion carries. Okay. Moving on to the 2021 budget review and resolutions. Ms. Eckhout.
Good morning. On page 29, you will see two budget amendments. These actual budget amendments were on last month's agenda, and they were moved to this month due to time. The first item is the analysis of impediments to fair housing award. This project began in the prior fiscal year 20, and today we're asking to bring the total of the budget amendment for the entire award of $125,000. We are requesting $96,817 in federal allocation, which would bring the total budgeted award amount to $125,000. The contract period is for November 2019 through March 21st, and this award is being shared among various jurisdictions, such as the City of Colonial Heights, Hopewell, Petersburg, City of Richmond, County of Chesterfield, and Henrico. This PlanRVA has coordinated the first regional analysis of impediments to fair housing for the participating localities. The work was procured by a vendor, Root Policy Research, and other work is being performed internally by staff members. PlanRVA will receive a total up to $24,050 in reimbursement for project management cost. The remainder, $100,950 of the revenue, is being passed through to pay the consultant fees. Are there any questions on this initial budget amendment?
Well, let me just say, this is Supervisor Holland, that this is a critically important issue to all of us in the region. And I think throughout the country is certainly adequate housing, fair housing is certainly a critical initiative. And we hope that this will provide some significant information, very meaningful information for all of us in the region, and for hopefully for other areas of the nation as well that may have challenges such as these, ensuring we have adequate and fair housing. So such an important one.
Thank you, Mr. Holland.
The next budget amendment request is the Community Impact Grant Award for $50,000. These funds have actually been received, and the grant is to be used to support capacity building and technical assistance to support better representative regional policy making and planning through community engagement at PlanRVA, which is grounded in equity and focused on inclusivity of all residents. The contract period runs from November of 20 through July of 2021. These are private funds, and there is no local match required.
Excellent. And it's important to note that it's 1 month beyond our normal operating cycle, which is June 30th. So make sure when we record this, it's already received as noted, that we do all the appropriate accruals, accrual basis accounting to ensure that it's properly reflected in 21 and 20.
Great.
Thank you,
Thank you again.
Tara. Go.
So we are requesting a motion to advance the budget amendments with the recommendation to approve at today's meeting.
I therefore move that we approve the recommendation, budget recommendations as presented.
Second.
Nova Peterson, I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you
have a
so
motion.
much. Thank you all so much.
Yes, and thank you for that. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote of acclamation. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Let me thank staff and thank the outstanding Finance and Audit Committee for its work. Make me very proud. They do a great job. I'm so happy to work with them. It's an honor, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. If I could just finish the vote. All those opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries.
Abstention. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, one abstention, Larry Nordvig, Powhatan.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Norvik. Any others? All right. The motion carries.
Thank you.
And yes, Mr. Holland, I echo your sentiments and thanks to the staff for that. Ms. Eckhout, you're still up.
Thank you. The final item that I have today is concerning the investment policy. PlanRVA continues to add principles to their catalog of policies for strengthening internal controls. We have developed an investment policy and introduced this to the Audit Finance Facility Commission meeting. The policy is important as we do have rather large investment funds because we carry a strong cash position and strong fund balance. This policy spells out the objectives of the policy to also include ethics and conflicts of interest. Again, this is due to strengthening the internal controls of the agency, and we spell out what investments we are authorized to, invest agency funds in. Primarily, we do use the local government investment pool, which is 100% risk-free. And we have noted that we will be reporting out quarterly what our quarterly interest income is. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Eckhout? Okay, good job.
So we are requesting a motion to approve the policy as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Eckhout.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
moved.
I therefore second this motion. And let me clarify and make sure it's known that it will be, the interest and income will be reported out. Did you say quarterly or monthly?
It should be reported out quarterly. I mean, it's in the financial statements monthly, but it should be specifically reported out as a treasury function to the Audit Finance Facility Commission on a quarterly basis.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you.
So I believe we had a first, I believe that was Ms. Gray.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
And a
Yes.
second by Mr. Holland.
Yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? All right, the motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Davey, please take the floor for our Public Outreach and Engagement Committee update.
Morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. I will be very brief. The committee has not been able to meet since our last board meeting, and we'll be trying to schedule that meeting relatively soon because the main item on our agenda is to draft an RFP that we talked about at the last board meeting to try to bring on some additional help and capacity that will be used for us to not only help in awareness of this organization, but obviously the outreach of the work of this organization is what we're really looking to try to improve. You may remember there's been a grant that's been awarded to the organization on that, and our committee's recommended approach was to then go out and draft an RFP that staff is working on right now. Hopefully we'll be getting our committee together to approve the draft of that RFP and then get that out so we can actually be working towards award of or recommendation of award to contractors to help us. So that's the main item on our agenda, the main item on my report, and obviously Martha can answer any specific questions any of our board members have.
Thank you, Mr. Davey. Any questions for Mr. Davey or Ms. Heater? All right. Thank you very much. Martha, I think you're up for the Executive Director's report.
Thank you. I just wanted to take this moment to recognize our staff. I know that each of you are in contact with your local government staff, and I think we all can. I will say that I did not anticipate that on December 10th I would still be participating in the meeting over video. So, certainly extend hope that our community stays safe and healthy. Great gratitude that our staff has remained safe and healthy during this time. And much thanks to our staff for the work that they have done over the last now 8 months in working in a remote situation. We do have staff members that are in the office almost every day, but it is not the same. As you all know, it is not the same when you can't just walk down the hall and speak to someone in person and sit down next to them and work on something together. And while the video screen has been a tremendous, I think, improvement in our technological capability, it obviously offers limitations in the ways that we can communicate with each other. So I just want to share with you that on a personal note, our staff members have experienced all of the highs and lows of life, as I'm sure you and all of the people that you come into contact with. We have had, I think, more than our share, quite honestly, of exciting news in our organization. And so, I think it's the time of year where you start to come back and look at what's happened over the course of 2020. So we have had weddings and engagements and new babies and many, many really wonderful things to celebrate with our staff members. Significant accomplishments and milestones that have continued to be met month over month. And I'm just so appreciative to our staff for the ability to not literally miss a beat during this time. We've continued to meet grant deliverables, take on new responsibilities primarily with the Central Virginia Transportation Authority, and it is just remarkable. And I also would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that a number of our staff members have had, as I'm sure you know, other people have had faced difficult times during the last 8 months. And so they have done all of this in the midst of challenges and obstacles and have really just done a tremendous job. So I wanted to be able to say that in a public forum. We will be celebrating the holidays virtually, which is not our preferred way to do it, but we are really grateful to the staff. And while we can't probably do the things that we would normally do to say thank you during this time, we're looking for some creative ways to say thanks to them for everything that they're doing, and that likely they will continue to do. You have a tremendous team of people who are really dedicated to the vision for the region and who show up every day with a desire to be able to plan for a future that they want to see, and I think that you want to see. So I could probably go on, but I just wanted to be able to take a moment to say that. And for those of the staff members that are listening, it just really has meant a lot to be able to see their perseverance through this time. So I won't delay unless there are things that you'd like to know. We are continuing to move forward under Mr. Thornton's leadership at the Central Virginia Transportation Authority. Lots of progress moving forward on things under Mrs. Page's leadership at the Richmond Regional Transportation Planning Organization. I know many of you serve on those boards. For those of you that don't, all of the meetings are archived on YouTube, so you are welcome to tune in. That has been one of the benefits of this time. We are able to provide, I think, greater access to the public, and we'll be continuing to do so as we navigate whatever we hold in the future. I'll encourage everybody to like us, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We are still trying to get to 100 subscribers so that we can have our YouTube channel branded with our name instead of that really long URL. So if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. If you have more than one username that you use to access YouTube, feel free to do it multiple times. This is a situation where voting often is allowed. And I would also like to promote our webinar series. We had a very successful webinar. I know a couple of you were able to tune in last month. It was our inaugural webinar, and we definitely learned a lot in the process, but it was a great chance to be our environmental management, our emergency management program. We had a number of representatives from your jurisdictions who participated in the panel to talk about the importance now more than ever of regional cooperation and this notion of better together when the localities come together to think about our public safety and preparation in the event of a disaster. So it was great to have that group. This month in December, we'll be hosting another panel to feature some work that we're doing in the commission. It'll be focused on the education foundations of our region, which is a space that we're not typically engaged with, but the education foundations linked up with the incident management team earlier this summer to be able to help facilitate distribution of resources out into the communities. So we've been able to develop a really nice relationship with the Hanover, Richmond, Chesterfield, Henrico, and Goochland education foundations. And so if your locality wasn't just named and you have an education foundation that you'd like to get folded in, we'd love to have them. But those executives have been meeting on a weekly or bi-weekly basis since last March. PlanRVA provides the logistical support. We schedule the meeting, we put out the reminders, we take notes, that kind of thing. But it's been a great chance for them to talk, to be able to speak with a number of different community representatives about things that they're seeing and the role that they're playing in ways that they can share resources across jurisdictions. And it's been a really great group of folks to be able to listen to, talk about how they're dealing with issues in their local community. So if you want to learn more about that, it'll be featured on the webinar next week. It's next Thursday at the 17th at 2 o'clock. You should have it in your education. Mrs. Page, we will definitely try to get contact with you so we can get New Kent pulled in. And then I will tell you a little bit of a preview. The January webinar will be focused on affordable housing. So there will be an update for those of you that are part of the Richmond Regional Housing Framework. Partnership for Housing Affordability, we'll be talking about that. And we'll have a little bit of a highlight of some other projects that are happening in some of our other jurisdictions around affordable housing and access. And then finally, in February, we have slated, which potentially Mr. Holland and Mrs. Page can participate in this as well, but we have Richmond Region Tourism slated to talk about the status of the regional tourism plan, which is, as many of you know, is not just a tourism organizational plan, but it is a regional plan for how we achieve our objectives around regional tourism now more than ever in the wake of the pandemic, and really being able to leverage our tourism industry as a part of our recovery. So probably took too much time, Mr. Spoonhour, but those are a couple things that are coming up, and appreciate your participation and support.
You'll never hear me say that you've taken too much time to acknowledge the hard work your staff does. So I echo your sentiments and thank you and your team for everything you've done through this incredibly unique and hopefully never happen again type of situation. So thank you for everybody. I know I represent the whole team when I echo those sentiments. All right, so now we're moving on into new business. This is going to be interesting. So I would like us to move into a closed session to discuss some personnel matters. Ms. Heater, can you or someone from your team can instruct us how this is going to occur?
Sure. So those of you who are not as familiar or comfortable with Zoom, this is a little bit of a new process, and it's a new process for the commission. In a few moments, the chair will entertain a motion to enter into closed session. You have language on the last page of your packet that can guide you in making that motion, and Mr. Gregory is on hand to advise as well if there's anything that needs to be stated differently there. But that is on the last page of your packet. Following a motion and a second and a rereading of the motion by the chair, there will be a voice vote. At that point in time, Mr. Kumar on our staff has already been working to assign each of you to be moved into a separate room. So if you envision the space that we are in right now, we are in the main room. You will get a pop-up on your computer screen that will invite you to join a new room. If you are a commissioner, you should be invited to be moved to that room. If you are not a commissioner, in other words, a staff member, you will be invited to be moved to a second room. During the closed session, there really won't be anyone or activity happening in the main room, and there will be a message posted so that those who are watching at home on YouTube know what's going on and don't just see a black screen. When you all are finished with your closed session, you can leave the meeting and return to be able to do the certification. We do ask that if you have to leave the closed session before it has concluded, you let the chair know so that we can reconcile attendance. Mrs. Fusco will be going to the room with you, and we'll do a very brief roll call to make sure that we didn't lose anyone before we get started with the content. After she finishes the roll call, she will leave the room herself. So once the motion and the second have been made and properly and Mr. Spoonhauer has read it again, you will be seeing that pop up to invite you to enter a new room. We do have people on the phone, so we would ask that you help us identify yourselves so that we make sure that we get you into the right room. So if you'll indulge me for a moment, phone number 7837, could you identify yourself? Is that you, Dr. Newbill? Phone number ending in 7837. Okay, at this point in time, I'm not sure who that is, Mr. Spoonhauer, so we will not move that person to the room and work accordingly. But I believe else who is on the phone, it's not a
Hello?
staff, will be moved
Yes.
up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you. Okay.
So did you get my number 543-7837, Cynthia Newbill?
We will move you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Sid, I think we're ready to go once the motion and the second.
I'm in a meeting. I'm going to have to call you back in a few minutes. I'm in the middle of a Zoom meeting.
Okay, would someone please present a motion to move into closed session?
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Chair. This is Cynthia Newbill, so moved.
Thank you. And so we have a motion on the floor to convene in closed session pursuant to Virginia Freedom of Information Act, section 23711A1 for the purpose of discussing personnel matters concerning the performance of specific commission employees, and pursuant to FOIA section 2.2-3711A8 for the purpose of discussion and consultation with legal counsel retained by the agency concerning the personnel matters during which all recordings of the meeting will cease. And just to clarify, Mr. Gregory, do we need to do a roll call vote or a acclamation?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Did you still need a second?
Yes, we need a second, and
I'll
I
second.
would recommend, thank you. I would recommend a roll call vote for FOIA compliance purposes.
Okay, so the first I thought was Ms. Newville.
That's what I have. Yes, and I've got a motion by Mrs. Newbill and a second by Mrs. Gray.
Okay. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Coda,
Aye.
thank you. Ms. Russell,
Aye.
Mr. McGraw,
Aye.
Chairman Spoonhour,
Aye.
Mr. Carroll,
Aye.
Mr. Davy,
Aye.
Ms. Fry,
Aye.
Mr. Holland,
Aye.
Mr. Engel,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Winslow,
Aye.
Mr. Blackwood, Mr. Giovia, Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Ms. Larson, Dr. Newville,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker,
Aye.
Mr. Archer,
Aye.
Reverend Nelson,
Aye.
Ms. O'Bannon,
Aye.
Mr. Moyer,
Aye.
Ms. Page,
Aye.
Mr. Hall,
Aye.
Mr. Nordvig.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, so now we should be receiving a pop-up box that will.
You guys just give me one moment. I'm trying to get this together. Martha, I don't know if I sent you an email regarding, I'm not sure if I'm able to see that option just yet.
You're muted, Miss here.
I apologize. Just one moment, bear with us. I didn't do my part. Sorry about that.
That's okay. You've been busy.
Thanks for your patience, everyone. I was supposed to give Sid the permission to do this at the beginning of the meeting, and I didn't do it. So he's assigning everybody to the rooms right now. That's what's taking a moment. But as soon as that's been completed, we'll be able to get you assigned. Apologies for my forgetting that.
No worries. It's kind of like the anticipation of being picked for basketball in gym class. So
I hope no one's feeling anxious right now.
and I was not good at basketball.
Okay, you should be receiving a notification in just a moment.
Thanks so much, Mr. Kumar.
I'm having trouble with the link.
Hey, Sid, can you hear me? It looks like we still have 3 people that need to be put into the breakout room.
There we go.
Can you see their names?
Yes,
Are they going over there now?
they should be. Yeah.
Okay. How about Miss Russell?
Yeah, I just sent over the invitation. Yep, I just sent the invitation.
So are you and I in the other breakout room, or are we still on the main
No,
session?
we're in the main session.
Okay.
All
right.
And there's 2 other rooms. Yep.
Okay. They were just confirming when they're done, they just leave that room, correct? And then they'll come back into this session.
Yep. And we have a sign stated that right now.
Okay, great.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I believe we're all back now. We'll
Okay.
hold on one moment. Let me make sure that
we definitely have a quorum. Mr. Kumar, if you could scroll down to the last page of the packet. Okay, yep. Item 2 there, the conclusion of the closed session. Is this Diane? Are you there to read? She may not be back.
Yes. Do each of you vote to certify that to the best of your knowledge, only public matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements, and that only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed session was convened were heard, discussed, or considered? Mr. Coda? Ms. Russell?
I apologize.
Thank you. Mr. McGraw?
I so certify.
Chairman Spoonhour?
Aye.
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Davy?
Aye.
Ms. Fry?
Aye.
Mr. Holland?
Aye.
Mr. Engel?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Winslow? Mr. Giovia?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
Dr. Newville?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Peterson?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Aye.
Mr. Archer?
Aye.
Reverend Nelson?
Aye.
Ms. O'Bannon?
Aye.
Mr. Moyer?
Aye.
Ms. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Nordvig?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and now we will move to item 6, commissioner comments. Floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, this is Chris Archer from Enrico.
Yes, sir.
I would just like to first wish everybody a happy and safe holiday season, but also say that over the past 25 years, this makes 6 or 7 times that I've served on this committee. And it has been a privilege each year. And I want to say that I've met so many wonderful, smart people. And I'm sure I took away a lot more than I contributed. But I appreciate having had the opportunity. But I'll probably not serve again. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your service.
Mr. Spoonhour, Tyrone Nelson, Henrico County. 2 things. First, I want to thank Mr. Archer, and I want to shout out Supervisor Thornton, who was listed as one of the Richmond Time-Dispatch Persons of the Year for 2020. He is on his 20 serving. This will be the conclusion of his 25th year on the Board of Supervisors, into his 7th term. And he has contributed a whole lot to Henrico County, still has a whole lot to contribute. So I do, in front of our colleagues, want to shout him out. Second thing, we started this already, so I'll start us and finish it. To shout out Councilwoman Gray, who has served the city of Richmond as a hardworking citizen, served on the school board, served on council, had a courageous and valiant run for mayor, and has offered up a lot for this this commission. And so this is her last committee meeting, but we know we will see and hear from her again, I'm certain. So in the meantime, I want to just say thank you, Kim, for your service. And and all that you've offered up to us.
Thank you, Tyrone. Thank you so much.
And this is Pat O'Bannon, Mr. Spoonhour.
Yes, Ms. Bannon.
I have many occasions sat next to Ms. Gray, and I just wanted to thank her for her thoughtful considerations and her comments. She's always had both feet on the ground and has considered everything logically, and I do appreciate that, Ms. Gray.
Thank you. You guys, I feel like I'm at my own eulogy. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Supervisor Holland and Commissioner Holland. I also wish Ms. Gray well, congratulate her on her service. As noted earlier, I'll not reiterate everything, school, council, and ballot run for mayor. I thank her for serving on the Finance Committee. It's been a true addition to what we have done. It's greatly appreciated. And I wish Mr. Archer well as well from Henrico County. Thank you for your many, many years of service as well. And thank you all. And I extend a very wonderful holiday and safe holiday to each of you and your families. All the best to you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Hua.
Yeah, I would like to certainly say thank you to Mr. Archer for his service, and I'd be remiss if I did not also recognize, thank, and appreciate the incredible service of my council colleague, Ms. Gray, both in terms of school board and in terms of council, and I'm sure future endeavors, and really appreciate the work over the last 4 years. So thank you for your service there and as a part of this body. I'd also like to wish everyone extraordinary holiday celebration and look forward to interfacing in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Newell.
I just, if I could for one moment, just thank everyone. The bonds and relationships and the respect that I have for this body and for our region has grown, and I am ever grateful for the ability to serve on this commission and to get a greater understanding of all the work that goes into making our region the great region that it is. So thank you all. I hope you have a wonderful holiday. I'm sorry I'm not as professionally dressed. I had to run out of the house early this morning to help a friend whose mom is bedridden, but that's why I've had my video off, but I felt like I needed to turn it back on. But thank you all, and I will greatly miss all of you, and I appreciate all of your hard work that you'll continue to do on behalf of the region. And Mr. Archer, all the years you put in is phenomenal, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Okay. You know, being new to this, I keep saying that I'm not sure how long I can continue to say that. I guess once I get into my second year, I can't. But I received a call after our last meeting from Ms. Page, and she said something to me that I think I feel like I should share with all of you, which is we have now been leaders through a time that we and many will look back through this time and remember this. And we were here for a reason, and you were in the position you were in for a reason. And I thank you for that, because it does make a difference. And I look forward to the difference we're going to make in 2021 and the years moving forward in whatever it is we do. So thank you for your willingness to serve. Whether it be a staff, a citizen that comes, or in an elected capacity. This doesn't work without you and without being willing to do that. And I'm so proud to be part of it, and appreciate everything that I've learned and done this year, and look forward to seeing everybody again in February. With that, have a wonderful, blessed holiday season, and stay safe, and continue to lead as you have been. Thank you all.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Back at you.
Happy holidays.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas.
This meeting is adjourned. I guess I had to say that.